Hi friends, welcome back. I am here to create a series of videos about various biology topics. And the first series is about the various organ systems in the human body. There are two specialities for my videos. What are they? The first one is that all the topics will be explained in less than 10 minutes. And the second one is the introduction of a new technology, the augmented reality, where you will be explained about each organ systems with the help of 3D models, which will make the sessions more interesting. Thank you everyone for your support. Keep watching my videos. All the best.
Hope all of you have watched the session about human digestive system. Today's session is about human respiratory system, another important system in our body. So before going into the respiratory system, let's learn the definition of what is respiration. Respiration can be defined as a biochemical process where the glucose molecules are broken down into the energy molecules with the help of oxygen that we breathe in. These energy molecules are the ATP and it is produced within the cells. Now let's learn the parts which are involved in the respiratory system. The parts involved in the respiratory system of human beings are the nasal cavity, the pharynx, the larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, alveolar sacs which are enclosed in the lungs. So let's learn each of these part by part. The first part is the nose and the mouth. Now you wonder why mouth is also involved in the respiratory system? Not actually involved, but still mouth also supports us in breathing at times. So the major part, the nose. The nose is the external opening for the air to be taken into the respiratory system. Now inside your nose there are tiny hairs as well as a sticky substance called as mucus, which helps to prevent the entry of germs and the dust particles into the internal respiratory system. The next important part is the sinuses. We have various sinuses located in the bone cavities that is there in your head. Now these sinuses, their role is to warm up the air that is taken inside into your respiratory system. The next important part is the pharynx. The pharynx or the throat region. Pharynx is the common opening for both the nose as well as the mouth. Now it is where both the air as well as the food particles come and fall into the common opening for the food pipe as well as the windpipe. In the end of the pharynx, you can see there is a flap-like projection which actually protects or prevents the entry of food particles into the windpipe or trachea when you eat your food. Now there is a larynx region in the pharynx which is supported by vocal cords. These vocal cords, actually when the air passes through these vocal cords, it gets vibrated, and this vibration is actually what is producing the voice from you, and that's how you can hear me. When I talk, I am taking in air, and this air is actually, it is vibrating the vocal cords in the larynx, and that is how the voice is produced. And that is why larynx is also called as the voice box. The next part involved is the trachea. The trachea is a tubular structure which is protected by C-shaped cartilaginous ring. And this trachea, it is a connection from the pharynx into the lungs. The trachea branches into the lungs, and that branch we call as the bronchi. Now each bronchi, they enter into the two lungs, the two separate lungs, and they will further divide, and that is called as the bronchioles. Now these bronchioles, they appear like the tree branches. As you see in the picture, they are from a main branch. It is dividing into the primary structure, which is again divided into the secondary structure. Now the bronchioles, they end up in balloon-like structures called as the air sacs or Scientifically, we call it as the alveolar sacs. And this alveolar sacs or the alveoli, they are supported by numerous blood capillaries. And the actual site of the gaseous exchange, that is the exchange of the oxygen and carbon dioxide, takes place in the alveoli. This picture gives you a clear idea about the branching pattern of the trachea. So you can see there, from the larynx, the trachea is extending down towards the lungs region and it is getting branched. And this branch of the trachea are called as the bronchi. Each bronchi further divides into smaller branches which are called as the bronchioles. And each of these bronchioles end up in the lungs as a balloon-like structure, that is the air cavities, or we call it as the alveolar sacs. Inside the lungs, these alveolar sacs are present, and I already told that these are the exact site of gaseous exchange, and that's why lungs are called the most important part of the respiratory system. Now, the mechanism of breathing. The mechanism of breathing is actually carried out by two important features that you have in your body. One is a bone, which you know protects the lungs and the heart. What is that? Yes, the rib cage. The rib cage, the movement of the rib cage is one factor that influences the mechanism of breathing. And there is another muscle which you see there under the rib cage. It is a dome-like structure and that is called as the diaphragm. So it is actually the movement of the diaphragm as well as the rib cage that helps in the mechanism of breathing. So now let's see how this happens in our body. So this is a simple experiment or a model to show the movement of diaphragm and how it is helping in the breathing in and breathing out process. So as you see here, when the diaphragm is moving downwards, what happens to the alveolar sacs or the lungs? You can see here, as the diaphragm is moving downwards, these two balloon-like structures, they represent the lungs, and the lungs are getting enlarged, isn't it? See again, when the diaphragm is moving downward, the lungs are getting enlarged. So that means there is enough air space. So this air space, when there is air space, enough air space, the air will move in through the external nostrils, it will move down through the trachea and pass through the bronchi and reaches the lungs. Now what happens when the diaphragm is moving upwards? When the diaphragm is moving upwards, you see there, the lungs, the space in the lungs is becoming smaller or lesser, and this will push the air out through the trachea and it will move outside. So when the diaphragm is moving downward, the oxygen is taken in. When the diaphragm is pushed or moving upwards, what happens to the air? The carbon dioxide which is present in the lungs will be pushed out to the external environment. So this is the mechanism of breathing when we talk about the diaphragm. Now next we'll see what happens when it is about the rib cage. The rib cage. The rib cage provides a protective covering for your internal organs such as the lungs as well as the heart. So here in this model you can see the movement of rib cage has also got an influence in the mechanism of breathing. So as you see here, when the rib cage is extending or when the rib cage is moving outwards and upwards, what happens to the lungs? The lungs, it is increasing in the size, and when this happens, there is enough space for oxygen to come in. So when the rib cage moves upwards and outwards, that is when it is extending, then the oxygen is taken in, that is we are breathing in. Now when the rib cage is moving downwards or when it is resting position, then the lungs shrinks, or the lungs, see the space in the lungs is less, so that it pushes the air outside. So that is what is breathing out. So this is the mechanism of breathing handled on by the rib cage. So when you talk about the mechanism of breathing, there are two mechanisms involved. One is the movement of the rib cage and the another one is the movement of the diaphragm. So now I believe that you have understood the mechanism of breathing as well. So if you have any doubt regarding the respiratory system topic which we have covered today, please feel free to contact me in the number which is given there in the description box. Hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.